In this video, we're going to take a look at how to make a triplanar material in Unreal Engine 5.3 and properly understand how triplanar mapping works. This will allow us to project different tileable textures or colors onto the top, front, and sides of an object separately. What we'll learn in this video will also go over how to create masks that use the world space axis to mask out different directions, which could be useful for adding moss or snow textures onto any asset that only sits on the top of the object, like this rock, where no matter how it's positioned or rotated, the moss or the grass is always on the top of the rock. In addition to that, we'll also go over how we can make a small modification to have the triplanar mapping stick to the object's surface for simple transformations. So normally, if this is using triplanar mapping, like this object here, like this rock, we have a brick texture projected on the sides and a grass texture projected on the top. Normally when you move it, it would slide and the mapping would not stick to the rock. But we can easily make a modification so it offsets the texture the same amount the rock gets offset, so the textures stick to the rock. It won't stick for rotations or scaling, but it will stick for movement, which can be useful. So we'll start off by creating a material called m_triplanar mapping. Now I'll be using Substrate for this, but you don't have to use Substrate. This will work in pretty much any version of Unreal. So the idea behind the triplanar mapping that we're going to do is world space triplanar mapping. We're going to take the world space coordinates and use that to map our textures to any surface in the different directions. So if we look at our axis here, Z is up and down, X is forward back, and Y is left and right. So to get those coordinates in a form that we can work with, we're going to search here and search for world position. And that's going to give us the absolute world position. So if we preview this node, it'll give us each pixel on this surface as a color, but that's not really a color. It's a XYZ or red, green, and blue value that describes its position in world space. And that's why any value towards the left and bottom here, those are negative values, like maybe the position of the surface here is like -10, -10, and -10. So that's why it shows black, because anything below 0 will just show as black. And anything greater than 1 will start to glow or show brighter when we preview that position as a color. Now the problem with this right now is those values are going very high. So if we were to use this currently as our UVs, it'll tile our texture too many times. It'll be too small. So we need a way to make these values smaller or larger to control the tiling. So what we'll end up doing is we'll take our absolute world position node and we'll multiply it by a value. And maybe we'll make a constant so we can control this value. And this value will be our tiling amount. And for now, I'm just going to set it to 0.01. So a very small value. And maybe I'll convert this to a parameter and call it tiling. And if I were to preview this multiply node now, well, then it's not going to be as bright and glowing because we're multiplying those values by a lower number. So it's bringing them down, therefore tiling less. So it's resulting in smaller values across that surface. So now that we have this, we can use this to start mapping our textures in these different axes, in top down, forward back, and left and right. And each of those axes is described as a different color. So red is the x-axis, green is the y-axis, and blue is the z-axis. So the next thing we're going to do is take this multiply node and break it into individual components. So we're going to use a breakout float 3 components. So now that we've broken out these components, we can build or combine which directions we want to map the texture to. So if we look at our axis here, if we want to map a texture going this way onto that surface of this cube or sphere, whatever you want to preview here, we'll look at the axis. So it's Z or blue axis and the green or Y axis. So what we'll do is we'll do a make float 2 to combine both of those axes and use those as our UVs. So green and blue. We'll also do our other axes. So if we want to project this way, what would that be? That'd be blue and red, or Z and X. So that'll be our next axis that we'll want to combine, red and blue. So we'll go over here and connect our red and blue. And then finally, the last axis we want to combine will be projecting from top to bottom or up and down, and that will be red and green, or X and Y. So then we'll also combine red and green. Now to make this a bit cleaner to look at, I'm just going to kind of reposition these and name them. So we got here our red and green, that would be top and bottom projection. We got our red and blue, that would be our side projection. And then we got our green and blue, which would be our forward projection. Just so you don't have to think about it, we have it named properly here and easy to look at. So there we go. We got our UVs set up for the different directions. Now all we have to do is connect those up to textures now. So if I create a texture sample and I choose something like some brick texture and use this as the UVs and preview it, there we go. Top down projection, and then it stretches on the sides, which is expected. And then side projection, there it goes. And then forward projection, the other side. So now all we need to do is combine all these together, but they're stretching on the sides. So if we were to combine it, it'd overlap those textures and look really weird. So we next need to create a mask to mask out only the sides, the front, the tops and bottoms, so that we can put all these different projected directions together and have them all work together. Now, before doing that, we can have different textures for each projection for top, bottom, side, and front, or front and back. But in this case, I'm just going to use the same texture projected on all different sides. So to save a bit of texture slot usage, instead of making 3 texture samplers, I'm going to create 3 texture samplers, but I'm going to connect the text node that we see there, or the text pin or output, into a texture object. So it's not going to use 3 different texture samplers. You don't really have to do this, but that way if you ever have to change the texture and you want it on all 3 different projection axes, you only need to change it once instead of changing it 3 times. So there we go, texture object, connect it up to these texture samples. Maybe I'll clean this up a bit so it's not all condensed together. That's a little bit better. And there we go, we got all of our textures projected. Now we just have to create our mask. So how are we going to get a mask on top, bottom, forward, and sides? No matter what it is, whether it's a sphere, whether it's a cube here, if we use a vertex, normal, WS, or world space, that node will give us a very interesting result. If we preview it, it gives us each axis as a color. Now the problem with this is, again, the axes that are going back or towards the negative values show as dark. So we can't really use those as a mask. But what we could do is we could connect this to an abs node. And an abs node will give us the absolute values. So any value that's negative will return as positive. So now we have a way of masking those sides that we're showing as black. So now we can mask our x-axis, our y or green axis, and our z-axis easily to mask out those different directions. Now what we can do is connect up to this abs node a break float 3 components. So we have individual access to the red, green, and blue channel, or X, Y, and Z. If I connect this up to a reroute node, just as an example, and preview that reroute node, you'll see that we can do a mask for any of our sides very easily. Now, I don't really have to lerp this by our textures, because if you take a texture or a value and multiply it by 0 or black, it just ends up being black or 0. And if you multiply any value by 1 or white, it stays its current value. Anything multiplied by 1 is just the same value that it already is. So I don't really need to use a lerp or anything. What I could essentially just do is take this here, our breakout float 3 components from our vertex normal world space, and just multiply it by our axes here. But just to make sure we do this correct, if I preview this texture sample, that's projected from top down. So I want to use the blue channel as my mask, because the blue channel is Z, which is top down. So I'll do a multiply and multiply this texture sample by the blue channel of our break float 3 components here. And if I preview that, there we go, our texture on the top down. And we'll do the exact same thing for all the other textures as well. So just quickly do this. I'll copy and paste that multiply node. So the next one we'll do is the side projection, which would go to, looks like green, most likely. And then the very last one would be the forward projection, which would go to red. So there we go. We've masked out all of our different textures and their different directions that they're projected from. And next we have to add these all together. So it sounds really easy to do, and it is, but it's going to provide one little issue that we'll have to deal with that you may have not expected. So if we go in here and we take all these now and just add them together, so I simply do an add node, add this, and then another add node to add this last one here. If we do that and we preview it, it looks like it's working. That looks all right. But if you view it on a circle or something and you turn off your lit mode to unlit, you'll notice that certain areas are darker and certain areas are brighter. And that's because these masks aren't perfect. They stretch a little bit onto the side and bleed over. So when you add them all together, some areas are brighter where they overlap and some areas are darker where they don't overlap. So we have a bit of an issue where the values are becoming brighter on our texture and giving us these weird seams along the axis. So the way that we're going to deal with that is, since that we know that the masks are overlapping in some areas, that means those areas are going to be brighter than values of 1 when all added together, or brighter values than what they should be. So what we're going to do is take our mask down here, and we're going to create another node called add components. That's going to add red, green, blue, or X, Y, and Z all together. So we'll take the absolute value, we'll add that to our add components vector 3 or v3, because it's 3 values, red, green, blue, or X, Y, Z, and I'll add all those different things together. And that's going to result in values that, maybe here where it's brighter are like 1.2 or 1.1, and the areas here where it's the color it should be are just solid 1. So if we have values going over 1, what we could do is create a divide node and divide 1 by our values here, by whatever the values are. And what that will do is give us the reciprocal of that value, which is the value that when multiplied by its original value will result in 1. So just as an example to make that a bit clearer, if some parts of this mask on this sphere are going to like 1.3 or 1.5, and you take 1 and divide 1 by 1.5, it gives us 0.66. And if you were to take that bright value, 1.5, and times it by 0.66, what does it give us? It gives us pretty much 1. So it's leveling everything out to a value of 1. So if we use that as a multiplier over our full result here, so we multiply our end result here by our reciprocal of those masks, when we preview this now, everything is a consistent tone, whereas before, some areas were brighter and some areas were darker. So there we go. We've solved our issue of having areas overlap and become brighter than they should be. Now all we have to do is take this final multiply node, put it into our base color or whatever we're wanting to use for our texture output. There's our full graph now, just so you can see that. And that gives us our triplanar mapping material, where now we can map any sort of different textures in different directions onto any object where its UVs don't really matter, and we get consistent mapping on it. So this works great for terrains, for environment objects that are most likely static. You don't want to have objects that are deforming or rotating. Now let's take a look at one last thing we can fix. If we apply this material to a cube or any sort of object, when we move that object, so here it is applied on a cube, if we rotate it, yeah, it slides, but we can project textures on that object in either direction. But if we translate it, it also slides as well. You can see the texture is feeling as if it's mapped to the world and not to this specific object. Now for simple transforms or translations, we can actually fix that. We're going to go back to our material here, and we're going to take the absolute world position, but we're going to subtract our object's position. So object position. And that way it's going to offset our texture by however much we offset our object. So it will give the illusion that all those textures are sticking, or pretty much it will make them stick by offsetting the coordinates. So if we do that, absolute world position, subtract object position, and then we save our material, now we'll have support for translations, where if I have this triplanar map now, when I move the object, the texture now sticks to it and doesn't slide. So that's something that can be also useful if you're not wanting it to slide around and you want it to be a more controlled offset. You can also add other things to nudge that offset, like another multiplier in there, or another thing that adds or subtracts to shift this texture around if you wanted to. But this way, now at least we can support transformations on a triplanar mapped object. If you liked this video, if you learned something new, don't forget to like and subscribe and press the bell button to be notified of future videos. And if you are a part of the Patreon, which you can find a link to in the description below, you'll also get access to the PDF for this video, which goes over all the steps we covered in this video and a little bit more detail going over this triplanar mapping. You'll also get access to about 50 other PDFs from past videos, and if you're part of that Patreon, you'll also get PDFs from the new videos that I make as well. So check that out if you're interested, and let me know in the comments down below what you're able to create using this method.